ask you a question. Why does a 200 million Bollywood blockbuster look like absolute dog shit while a family comedy from 1998 looks like a meticulously crafted, visually stunning piece of cinema? Why do modern movies, despite having access to the most advanced cameras, lighting rigs, and CGI tools ever invented, look so flat, grey, and uninspired? No, it's not just nostalgia. It's not just old movies were better. This is a real problem. And the more we notice it, the harder it becomes to ignore. So today, we're going deep into what happened to modern movies and why they do not look like they used to. What changed? How did we get here? And most importantly, can we fix it? Let's overthink this, shall we? The death of intentional cinematography. Once upon a time, movies looked like paintings. Every frame was composed with purpose, contrast, and mood. Think about the films that shaped your visual memory. The Godfather, deep shadows, golden hues, rich contrast. Blade Runner, neon-drenched futurism with inky black shadows. Seven, gritty oppressive darkness that felt tangible. Even mid-budget comedies and dramas, movies that were not trying to win Oscars for cinematography, looked better than most modern blockbusters. Take Superbad, a dumb teen comedy, right? But go back and actually look at it. Warm color tones, deep contrast, rich blacks, carefully chosen production design. Now compare that to your average streaming show or even a high-budget blockbuster. Why does everything look so lifeless? Why does every interior scene look like it was lit by an overcast day inside an Apple store? Because modern cinematography is no longer about artistic choice, but it's about flexibility. HDR ruined everything. Here's something that will blow your mind. The best cinematographers in history were not just lighting a scene. They were choosing what not to show you. They were crushing black so you only saw what they wanted you to see. They were blowing out highlights to create depth and focus. They were making choices. Then came digital cameras. And digital cameras, especially modern ones, are obsessed with something called high dynamic range, HDR. HDR allows cameras to capture more detail in the shadow and highlights, meaning you can see everything. But here's where the problem lies. Just because you can see everything does not mean you should. Film cinematography was built on contrast, light versus dark, warm versus cool, sharp versus soft. Digital cinematography, especially with HDR, is built on expose everything and fix it later. So instead of seeing a moody, shadow-filled alleyway, you get a flat, grey, detail-packed void where every single object is visible but nothing stands out. Everything is shot flat, neutral, and overexposed because they don't want to lose detail. But that's what makes movies feel lifeless. This is why modern horror movies don't feel scary, why modern action movies don't feel intense, and why even romantic comedies feel cold and artificial. It is the death of international contrast. Over-reliance on CGI and fix-it-in-post mentality. Now let's talk about the elephant in the VFX-heavy room. CGI is a great tool, but it's also a lazy one when overused. Filmmakers today shoot entire scenes on green screens with digital lighting, digital set extensions, and digital color grading in post. And because these elements are crafted separately, the lighting and cinematography never feel grounded in reality. Compare the Batman from 2022, which used practical lighting and camera techniques, to something like Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which looks like it was shot inside of a PS5 game. In older films, cinematographers lit for the actual environment. Today, they light for post-production flexibility. They don't commit to a look, they don't contrast enough because they might need to change it later, they don't use real shadows because they need to keep details visible for the VFX team, and it's killing the cinematic feel of movies. Here's a reality check. It's not just blockbusters. Even cheap, low-budget movies from the past look better than modern films. Why? Because they had to make choices. They did not have the money to fix things in post. They did not have unlimited VFX budget to rebuild entire sets. They had one chance to light and shoot a scene correctly, so they made it count. Even something like Clerks from 1994, which is black and white, shot for $27,000 and barely lit, had more visual identity than half of the streaming movies made today. Modern movies have more tools, more technology, and bigger budgets, but they don't use any of it intentionally. They play it safe. So is all hope lost? Not necessarily. There are still filmmakers who care about contrast, texture, and visual identity. Denis Villeneuve, he understands how to use shadows, natural lighting, and deep contrast to create real cinematic weight. Robert Eggers, his films feel tactile, painterly, and intentionally because he's not afraid of darkness and texture. Christopher Nolan still shoots on film, still commits to practical lighting, still blows out windows like Spielberg, and audiences are noticing. Movies like Dune look phenomenal because they embrace contrast and practical effects. Movies like The Batman feel cinematic because they commit to lighting and visual texture. Even indie films like The Green Knight stand out because they make bold artistic choices. We don't need to go back to old school film cameras to fix this. We just need filmmakers to start making real cinematographic choices again. More contrast, more intention, more movies that look like movies.